George Toya is next from Jemez Pueblo. Gil Naranjo is from Santa Clara. Just wanted to point something out, something that Gil said about farming, healing in essence, being a healing force. I do a lot of work with Waida music, which is the social dance of my tribe. And we have a young Waida musicians workshop where veteran musicians, maybe 10 of them, work with about 20 kids from the ages of 10 to 20. And we have a panel where the musicians talk about what it means to be a musician, that it's special because you're given skills, and farmers have this too, ranchers have this, skills that most of us aren't given. And at every one of these panels, the veteran musicians say, I was drugging, I was boozing, and it was music that brought me out. Every time I had a problem, whether it was physical or mental, it was music that brought me out. And so I just wanted to point that out there, that traditional ways of doing things are in fact healing. And next we have George Toya.
My name is George Toya. I'm from Jemez Pueblo. And I work for the Pueblo of Nambe. I run the farming program. And we've started the program in 2012. So it's been a few years now. And so this is a little presentation about the farm in Nambe. I grew up farming in Jemez since I was a kid with my grandparents and my father and my parents. We grew a variety of crops. We had horses, cows, all kinds of animals. So I'm familiar with farming and ranching. So, so anyways, in 2012, we started this program. And Nambe Pueblo, like any other Pueblo, any other native community, is in New Mexico is agricultural. We had our own fields, we had our rivers, our water sources, and this is what sustained us since the beginning. And the knowledge, the traditional farming knowledge was passed down by all these elders and all these people. They carried that knowledge through generations and generation, passing it down, how to take care of the land, how to save the seeds, how to keep it going for the next year. And all these people, they carried the knowledge. These are people from the 1800s and early 1900s in Nambe Pueblo. But every village and every community has their same elders like this, that continued and shared the knowledge. So this particular fellow, Antonio Vigil, is listed in the 1885 census. He served as governor, war chief of Nambe Pueblo, and all his ancestors are still living back in Nambe. So, but in the 50s and 60s, there was the relocation and re-education program where many of the farming-age males and females were relocated to trade schools or into different cities, and some of them were enlisted into the military, and they moved away from home. And so at that time, a lot of the traditional farming knowledge was lost or either forgotten. And some of these guys never returned home. They never came home. They come home like for certain occasions, like for Christmas or the feast days or when there was a death or something like that. So, but a lot of them stayed where they relocated. So that's another reason why some of the farming knowledge was lost or forgotten. And traditional farming has to be continuously done so that it stays alive. It needs to be continued, or else it has to be relearned. Nambe Pueblo, many of the fields were really nice fields, but because they weren't farmed for a long time, they became overgrown with a lot of invasive species like Siberian elm or Chinese elm, Russian olive, different grasses and weeds, all these plants that were introduced either through well-intentioned people like the Chinese elms or the Russian olives and stuff. You know, a lot of the men, older men, were saying that they would send them home with these little little shoots of all these trees. They were nice shade trees, and as a result, you know, there's all these Chinese elm growing, you know, everywhere, and then every spring they spew thousands of seeds, you know, so they're really hard to get rid of. And it really takes a toll on the water and the farmable land. So what we're trying to do is establish these farms and these gardens, these fields. And Nambe Pueblo is very fortunate, though, to have a good water supply. It comes directly from the Sangre de Cristos down the Rio Nambe into the lakes. This is Upper Nambe Lake, way up in the Sangre de Cristos. Then it works its way down to Nambe Pueblo, where we have a big reservoir, and we store the water. So we're very fortunate to have a good water supply up there. And the water has always been really had a lot of cultural significance. It's Nambe, the Falls area, is a real spiritual place where many other pueblos go there for certain things, and you know, just being there, you can tell it's a very spiritual place. So in 2012, we started a community farm. We started with a 1 acre. The guy on the lower left over there, Victor Perez, he donated. He volunteered his property, and it's a 6 acre piece of property. So, but we started with 1 acre, and put out the call. People in the community if they wanted to come and help in the community farm. So we had a handful of volunteers come, and we started the farm. The first year we planted, everything grew, you know, and it's been like that ever since. So we started farming with these rows like this, you know. So it was a kind of a modern thing. It's not really traditional Pueblo farming. Is kind of a little bit different, you know. But everything grew. The land was ready to grow, and so we had an abundant crop of everything. And then once we grew all this stuff, we said, what are we going to do with it, you know? So we started just taking it door to door and supplying first the senior center and then everybody else, you know. And so it turned out to be really good. Also that year, we had bumper crops of all this fruit. You know, we had cherries, you know, like bags and of cherries and peaches and apricots. Everything grew that year. And so we said, what are we going to do with all this stuff? You know, so we cleaned it all up and started storing it, freezing it, and then we had canning classes later on. So, so it was a good year. But with this farm too, we also try to share everything we're doing. So we enlisted the summer youth program and the after school program, the language classes and everything. We try to incorporate all that together, share the knowledge. And so with the language program, they made signs, you know, in English and in Tewa, and we started putting them everywhere, you know, identifying all the plants, different times of the day, the tools, the implements, the dirt, the rocks, the bugs, everything. You know, they put a sign everywhere. And a lot of kids already knew what this stuff was, but some of the kids that didn't, you know, it gave them a good idea of what these words, how these words sounded, and what they were all about. And even some of the adults that didn't know. So it worked all good all the way across. And then, so we try to include everybody into the program, from the older folks to the younger folks. Like right now, we're in the harvest season, so we have an abundance of sweet corn. And so for the last 3 weeks, we've been roasting corn in this pit, We can fit about 600 pounds of corn in there at a time, and so we build a fire, let it burn down, and then once the coals turn white, then we throw in some green corn stalks that are wet, that we wet down, and then we pile all the corn on top of it, throw in a 5-gallon bucket of water, and then seal it. Put a cover on it, cover it with a tarp, and then mound it with dirt and leave it there overnight. So in the morning when we open it up, all the corn is steamed and ready to eat, and it's just so good. The smell is just incredible. But we try to get everybody to participate. Like up in the upper left corner, up on top, the guy with the cap, he's a lieutenant governor, and so we invite all these guys to come and help with the farm, and they don't always have the time, but they try to make some time. And then down on the bottom, like when we're taking the corn out, we put the word out, and some of the older folks, they come and help, and then we send them home with corn. So our first 2 batches that we roasted, 1,200 pounds, we just went door to door and handed out corn to every household. And, and everybody was so happy, because it's ready to eat, and this was like starting about 8:30 in the morning till about noon. We went and handed all this stuff out. So also that year, we started a greenhouse, a hoop house, and we didn't really know much about hoop houses. So we went to the extension service in Alcalde up north of Espanola and took some pictures of their greenhouses, and then made a materials list and drew it out, and then went and bought our own materials and put it together. And it was, fairly simple. We didn't have much of a budget either, so, this hoop house is about 18 feet wide by about 40 feet long. And everything, the total cost of the whole thing, once we had volunteer labor and everything, was less than $1,500 for everything. And so that's what we got for our money. And then these 3 guys, they worked their butts off helping put this thing together, bring the dirt and planting it, and then put in a drip irrigation system. Real simple. All you have to do is hook up a water hose to it, turn it on for about 2 hours, and that's it, and then you switch it to the other side. So there's nothing, anybody can do it. But we had abundant harvests, We plant our melons, our watermelons, our onions, our corn. This is our pit roasted corn. Once it's roasted, we husk it and hang it to dry, and it makes chicos, which is the dried corn that can be rehydrated, used in stews, or it can be ground into flour, or it's just a real versatile product once it's roasted. And a long time ago, hunters used to carry a small bag of this stuff, and or farmers, and just put it in a little water, and it rehydrates it, and you got nourishment, and you only have to carry a little bit. And then our chili peppers, everybody has chili here, so but this on upper left is the roasted corn, the sweet corn. It's the chicos. We grow blue corn. We grow all these other vegetables, the green tomatoes. So the older ladies, they have all kinds of recipes for green tomatoes, and they don't want to wait until they're ripe, because they know how to prepare all these things, and they share this knowledge with everybody else, and we put it in our biweekly or bi-monthly newsletter. And so the knowledge is being shared that way. And this is our pit. And when we first started, it was just a dirt pit. We just dug a hole in the ground. And then, after one season, the next season it started raining real hard, so the sides started caving in. So what we did is a couple years ago we bought some cinder block and lined the whole pit, and now it's really nice and sturdy and it's real clean. So we did try using an outdoor oven, the Orno, but we do so much of it that it creates so much steam that the plaster falls in from the oven. So the pit works really good. We also the following year we started a vineyard on 1 acre, and so on 1 acre we were able to put in 1,000 grapevines, and we enlisted help from there's a group that came down. They're from some school back east, Waldorf School. Anyways, they came and said, "Hey, you guys need some help?" And I said, "Yeah, we could use some help. You want to plant grapes?" So we had all these kids out there planting grapes and helping us string wire and doing all this stuff. And so we got it all planted, and right now the vineyard is thriving. The first few years we didn't get any grapes because as they were coming up and pushing out the grapes, we took all the grapes off so that all the energy would be concentrated back into the vines. And so we have a strong. So next year we're going to let them just go nuts. So we'll see how that goes. And these are all 4 different varieties of grapes, 2 purples and 2 whites, and they're all wine grapes. And so in the area there's a lot of wineries. So one of the wineries came by and said, we'll take all the grapes you guys can grow. So it makes sense to grow. In northern New Mexico is a great place to grow grapes because for wine because of the fluctuation in temperature, cold nights, hot days. It creates a real grape with lots of sugar because of temperature fluctuations. So that's the difference between a $10 bottle of wine and a $60 bottle of wine. So northern New Mexico is a good place to grow grapes. We also have a Bison Program, small herd. We use it as a teaching tool also. This year, a few years ago, we did it as a teaching. We harvested one of the buffaloes, and we used all traditional tools. We used stone knives, axes, and everything else, flint tools. And we found out that it was just as good to use those because those flint tools never need sharpening, and they cut right through, and it's really good for skinning because you don't make any holes in the hides, so it's really good. So we used it as a teaching tool. We invited all the kids up there and had them help, and then as soon as we're done, we brought out this big wok and cooked up a bunch of meat for them. They were all happy, So and also we try to incorporate all kinds of other things. We have like willow basket making. We have canning classes. We invite the community members, men, ladies, whoever comes to show up for the canning classes. Whatever we can, they take the stuff home. Here's our, we try different things. This is called Hukou Culture. It's a European thing. What they do is they mound up old rotting wood or wood that's kind of soft and cover it with a mulch, mulch and dirt, and then wet it down really good so that as the wood deteriorates and starts to break down, it creates fertile. It creates, fertilizer for the plant. So then you plant the stuff on top, and it holds the moisture. So they do this in Europe a lot. So we decided we were going to try it. So right now the mound is covered with corn. It's got corn all the way around. We had lettuce, we had broccoli, we had all these things. We just gave a bunch of seeds to all these kids, and they went out and put it all over the place. So things all mixed. But now everything else finished, so now all we got left on there is sunflowers and corn. But it worked really well. This year, like Gilbert was saying, we had lots of grasshoppers. There's different methods of controlling them. Traditional methods was plowing in the evening in the fall, before the first real hard freeze. That way you expose all the eggs from the grasshoppers. That's what the old guys tell us. And modern methods, pesticides, which we don't do, but there's also organic baits, but they're pretty expensive. So we're doing the traditional methods. Same way with squash bugs. There's traditional methods, wood ashes, and other things like that, and we're staying away from all the pesticides and everything like that. So we put these things out in the community newsletter and share that knowledge. Just recently we had another basket making class. We invited a guy from Cochiti, Arnold Herrera, who's also a drum maker. Him and his boys came up and taught a class in basket making. We had a good number of participants, and then we also made wood trellises for tomatoes and grapes and all kinds of other stuff. So, it was really successful, and the baskets were just beautiful. But to make an impact on your community, you need to help out. If you want this thing to be successful, you got to be willing to get your hands dirty. You can't just go out there and say you were going to do a community garden and say who are we going to get to do it. You gotta lead by example, and I think that's the best way. We try to do that. We can't be everywhere all the time, but so with our department, we work for the environment department and the farming community farm. So wherever anybody asks for help, we don't refuse them. We help till their land, prepare their fields. We've been able to, through our grant money, we've been able to buy farm equipment, all the implements we need. So we have all that. And sometimes we'll have to charge a nominal fee just for the fuel and the maintenance and stuff like that, but it's not really that much. And so far we've been able to, this year we prepared 12 fields for community members so that they could have their own fields in their gardens. And some of it's alfalfa, but majority of it is vegetables. Traditional knowledge, farming, the elders have a lot of traditional knowledge. They know how things grow in their places, since they've been farming all this time. So, you can never take for granted the knowledge that these old guys carry. It's like up here in Nambe, Victor, the guy sitting on tailgate with all the young guys. He says, well, when are you going to plant your beans? I said, well, we'll plant them in the spring. He says, no, you don't plant them in spring. He says, you got to plant them at San Juan feast, That way, that's what the time when we always plant beans, San Juan feast, and then it ripens when everything else is ready, So, and it worked. So we did, and right now we're ready to harvest beans, at the same time as our corn. So a lot of these old guys, they know how to do this. They have all this knowledge. They're not going to come out and tell you. You have to go ask them. And there's certain ways you ask in different places. So that's always something. And then this is why we do it. There's the future is all these young kids that need to know this stuff, and this is the community governor down here, and all the community members. So they're the ones that are going to carry on this place. They're the ones that are going to inherit all the land and these fields. So they have to have a good base so that they know how to do these things when they get to the farming age. And these are the seeds we use. These are seeds that we collected from the community members, from these old guys that used to that a lot of them farmed. They had their stashes of seeds. We collected them, we planted them, made new seeds, And so this is what we give these out to the community. The tobacco and some of the stuff I brought from my home, from Jemez. This is the tobacco my grandfather grew, the melon seeds and stuff like that. But the unique thing about seeds is that it's great, because seeds have that memory. They know how to grow in certain places, because they've been growing in certain places. They know how to survive on certain amounts of water. So like seeds that you would get from community back east, or where it's really a lot of rain, won't grow as good here as it does over there, because that seed has a memory and knows how to grow in those places with a certain amount of water. Same way our seeds probably wouldn't grow as good up there. It'll produce, but not to its full potential. So that's the importance of seeds, heirloom seeds, and seeds from your community. You try to stick with your seeds, and as you plant them every year, they get stronger because they remember how to grow in that area. And so, that's the thing we teach also. We try to teach our younger people that too. There's a real science to it, and these older guys, they all knew that, they all knew why. They didn't maybe necessarily know the reason why, but they knew that these seeds grow good here. And that's it for me. If you have any questions, you can email me or call me, and thank you.
George Toya, thank you so much, sir. He reminded me a couple of things. When I was working at Native Seed Search, people on the East Coast would order tepary beans, which is a plant that grows with very little water. It almost needs to be in a drought situation. And so we'd get these letters from them saying, I've got this big bushy plant, but no seeds. What's going on? No fruit. And that was why. It was getting too much water and was not just not used to that.